Hi, thanks for joining me. It's currently March 31st, 2020. I wanted to give an update on my platelet count, which had been coming down starting as of March 2nd. I had a blood test that day and it was 174. February 24th, it had been 203, so that was within my normal range of usually 180 to 220. Then it started to subsequently start coming down. March 6th, it was at 171. March 11 at 165, then March 16, 123, then on March 19 it was at 107. And obviously I got intimidated and afraid, okay, here I have to go potentially again on steroids. I have to go on dexamethasone. A month ago on February 3rd, my platelets had crashed and they were at 3. I hadn't gone for blood tests in January, unfortunately, and my numbers had come down. It had been a year since my last ITP crash, which would have been last January or February, in which I had dexamethasone, and I went a full year without any issues, any crashes, which was a first for me, because typically every 3 to 6 months since this all began in July 2016, I'd have to go and get prednisone when my platelets would crash, when I was taking blood tests and I could see my numbers coming down. In worst case scenario, I'd have to stay in the hospital for a couple days and they give me platelets and give me steroids there. Fortunately, on February 3rd, I had to go to the hospital the next day, and I stayed overnight because my platelets were so low. That's always something I'm trying to avoid. So here we are a month later, my numbers had come up. They were looking like, okay, if I can continue the things I was doing, we could go potentially another year here with my platelets staying at their normal range. But after a month, they started to come down again. So, it's one of those things when I guess you're kind of put up against the wall, you throw the kitchen sink and how do I get out of this? Like, I got to find something. So I started really diving in again with research online and seeing like, okay, how do I get my numbers up naturally? I want to avoid having to take steroids. I want to avoid having to have my platelets go down at all. So I was like, let's see if there's a natural way to do this. Last year, I had for the first time in the 4 years that I've had this condition, where my platelets, they came up naturally. Between two tests, my numbers came up, I think it was around like 10, or which would be 10,000 platelets. And at the time I was eating a lot of beef liver, and I was also drinking a lot of beef bone broth at the time, and I contributed that perhaps to why. I'd also been seeing 2 naturopaths at the time, one in particular who was a blood specialist, and they had given me a bunch of vitamins and minerals to take, and I was taking them, and that potentially too could have seemed to have helped. So anyways, a year on, here we are, my numbers are starting to come down. Obviously, we have this virus situation globally where, going to the hospital, going to get even blood tests is like a little scary because you don't know if, you could potentially be exposed to that. And so obviously with my numbers coming down, it's like, okay, this is even worse situation. So it's like, I got to find a situation here. I got to find a solution. So dove online in a big way. And I've been watching Dr. Berg on YouTube quite a lot. He has excellent channel on YouTube. If you're not familiar with him, very good advice to all kinds of conditions, great instruction, fantastic. So I started seeing a lot of his videos. He talked about the liver, the kidney, which I had obviously seen some research around. Those are where the first signals go out to your body to say, hey, we need more platelets, and then that signal goes to your larger bones in your arms and your legs, specifically I believe your legs, and these larger bones in both your legs and your arms start to produce platelets from your bone marrow. So based on that, trying to do more research, and along Dr. Berg videos, he discussed potassium, and he talked about potassium and sodium being important in terms of their level within the body. And again, seeing that come up again, electrolytes, I'm like, well, okay, maybe there's something around this. And I came across diuretics, and currently I'm taking a whole bunch of supplements. I'm taking a whole bunch of like natural remedies and things to give myself good health and see if I can battle this naturally. And with the year I had last year, why would I change things? Because I had a year without any platelets coming down. So reading along diuretics, I'm reading about apple cider vinegar being a diuretic, and I've been taking apple cider vinegar almost every day, just a little splash in my water. Apparently, it's good for your organs and just your overall health, for sugar levels being low and things like that. I'd also been prescribing to the keto diet, where it's like low carbs. I'm Italian as well, and so that's been difficult. But nonetheless, trying to keep carbs low or minimal and sugars minimal. That way, you're burning fats for energy rather than sugar. So apple cider vinegar, I'd read, is good for that and your health in general. So I've been taking a little splash every day. But I read here in some of the literature that it's a diuretic, and that there was a case with someone based on this article that I read on healthline.com, where they talked about apple cider vinegar. If you take too much, what could be some of the symptoms? I have the article that I'll put in this description for this video, so you can see it there. And this particular woman had all kinds of issues with her blood as well as her bones. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of a little bit like platelets in terms of its production. And so I've essentially then read from diuretics. I also read about overhydration. And that was a bit of a aha moment for me, because I'm thinking, I drink a ton of water. I used to play lots of sports, and I've come from the school of you should be hydrating all throughout the day, 1.5 liters every day. When you have a moment, drink water. You want to be hydrating. Your urine should be clear or close to clear. That's a good hydration. And this article talks about overhydration, and it was like, what? Wait. And so I read this article, and it talked about how potentially when your urine is clear, you're overhydrating, and that really your urine should be like a lemonade color, and potentially it could cause you to urinate excessively, which could also lead you to eliminating electrolytes, vitamins, minerals through your urine, and therefore not having enough, and so you're depleting that. And that was an aha moment where you're like, wait a second, that could mean that some of the important building blocks for your platelets could be lost in urine. And I myself was urinating all the time, all throughout the day, and sometimes being like, wow, I urinate like a lot, obviously because I'm drinking a lot of water all throughout the day, but that's what you should be doing. That's what I thought. So with that, I'm like, okay, wow, okay, I'm perhaps overhydrating. I see a video from Dr. Berg talking about the myth of hydration, and he talked about how, no, you should be listening to your body and the perception of thirst. So when you're thirsty, you drink. If you're not thirsty, you don't drink. So right away, that right there, I thought, okay, I'm going to be cutting back my water immediately, and I'm only going to drink when I'm thirsty. And that should stop my excessive urination, which might be eliminating electrolytes and vitamins, minerals. On top of that, the article also talked a little bit about electrolytes and how important that is for your body, and I looked into that a little more. And I ended up going to my local pharmacy supermarket, and I found Pedialyte. So Pedialyte right there. Bought some, and I had some immediately that weekend. So this was when my last numbers were at 107, March 19th, which was a Thursday. And I did all this research on the Sunday, where I felt like, okay, tomorrow Monday I have to go for a blood test, and like it's crunch time, like it's a crucial blood test right there. So it's like I got to get my numbers up. I got to do whatever it takes. And so with that being said, I ended up taking the Pedialyte, which I found that day, and drank it Sunday as well as Monday. I went for a blood test in the afternoon. That way the electrolytes would potentially work, as well as not drinking as much water and not urinating as much, to see if that would have an effect. I take my blood test. Results come Tuesday morning. They're at 144. So it came up quite a lot. It came up, I guess, 37 points, which is incredible. My numbers had come up a year ago, where I wasn't able to keep them up afterwards, and they only had come up 10, just a little bit, but this came up quite a bit. So I'm like, maybe I'm onto something here. So I continued with that routine where I didn't drink as much water. I only hydrated when I was thirsty. And then I started thinking and going through, okay, what else do I have here potentially that's diuretic? Because I stopped with the apple cider vinegar. I also had read that vitamin C apparently is also diuretic if you have more levels than what's needed for your body. Your body essentially will eliminate it because it's water soluble. So if you have too much vitamin C, which potentially could have also been in my case, because I take vitamin C regularly in quite amount, so I stopped that as well. So on the Thursday, March 26th, after I'd had the test for 144 on the Monday, on the 23rd, my numbers were 152. So they'd come up just a little bit, but I'd never had my blood test where my platelets come up twice in a row. So that was a huge bonus for me. So I'm like, wow, okay, we're doing something right. During that time, I didn't drink Pedialyte. I didn't have more electrolytes because I thought, oh, maybe I just needed it, just one. I believe it's 1 liter for the bottle. I thought that's it. The bottle even says you shouldn't be drinking this as a normal beverage, only when you have loss of water in excess, such as diarrhea or vomiting, which I didn't have either case. But in my case, I had lost electrolyte, or I was low on electrolytes, because they have a balance. The Pedialyte beverage has a balance of all the different electrolytes in there. And so as a unit altogether, I guess all the electrolytes are balanced nicely for you, which is great. So when I got 152 on the Thursday, I thought, okay, it's gone up. This is great, but it's not in my regular zone. I went from 107 to 144, but yet, here I am from Monday to Thursday, which is a similar time frame from the Thursday to Monday, and my number's only up like 8 points. Like, that's not really that much. So I went out, I bought more Pedialyte, and I had Pedialyte beverage 1 liter on the Saturday, and I had another Pedialyte 1 liter on the Sunday. Monday, March 30, yesterday, I went for another blood test, and lo and behold, this morning I look, my number's at 184. So they've come up. They've come up again, which is great, and they're in my normal range, which is fantastic. I've never had them come up before when they were at 107 all the way back up to my normal range. So I've hit on something here. I've cut back again with drinking water, where I only drink when I'm thirsty, so I'm not urinating excessively all throughout the day, only maybe urinating somewhere between like 5 and 7 times perhaps all throughout the day, from morning till night, whereas before it used to be like 10 plus. Basically I'm drinking water every hour and a glass every time I have a break and stuff, so that's not happening anymore. So I think between the Pedialyte, which must be helping, I had read as well in one of the articles on Healthline, which I'm going to put in the description below. There were a couple articles that were really good. One of them also discussed how with the apple cider vinegar and the diuretics, the body, when it is needing more minerals and things for producing the functions of the body, it will go into the bones and leach the bones of those things. And essentially, the platelets are coming out of your bones. So if your platelets, the bone marrow is not producing the platelets because it doesn't have the right minerals and vitamins and building blocks for it, because your bones are leached essentially from what it needs, that could be trouble. So essentially they have to be put back in, whatever those minerals and vitamins and things that are needed that have been leached in, and perhaps it's those electrolytes. And other than that, I am taking zinc currently, but I've been taking zinc for a while and I haven't had those results. Like, my feeling is cutting back on drinking water, so I'm not urinating as much throughout the day, and essentially things are leaving my body excessively and leaving me depleted. And then also the Pedialyte, the electrolytes, having those prior to getting blood tests to make sure that I'm hydrated enough, because essentially, take a look. I highly recommend Dr. Berg's channel on hydration, on water, the water myth. I'll put a link in the description, as well as he talks about electrolytes. Really good. I find him as a resource that's fantastic for understanding the body and for going back when I have moments like this. I'm also taking a probiotic. It's called Renew Life. It's got 80 million bacteria probiotic. I've been taking that for a month now, maybe 3 weeks. And so could that also be a factor potentially? It could. I didn't have my numbers come up right away after the first week or the second week, but it's been now this third week where, my numbers have come up. But I cut the water as well as increasing electrolytes, and I feel that maybe could be what has helped. So anyways, I wanted to let people know this is the first time for me. I have another blood test next week, so we'll see as my numbers continue, but this has been really good. And I just wanted to put it out there for those that are maybe wondering, how my platelets are coming down. I don't understand. They're really low. It could be excessive overhydration, could be excessive urination from the overhydration, and then getting electrolytes in your body so that you have those minerals inside you because they're building blocks for your bones and for platelet production potentially. So give that a try. That'd be my suggestion. Cutting water down, free. Pedialyte here in Canada is $11 a bottle. Give that a try for a couple days, or just prior to a blood test, and see how that goes, if that's your case. This is something that's worked for me, so I don't know if it would work for others, but I just wanted to put it out there to help others. Okay, talk to you later. All the best.